Learn Zohar, Michael-ben-Pesach, Portnaar. Baderech el Hasulam, on the way to the ladder. Lesson 8. Question from one of our course participants as a result of this lesson. If Aka, Adam Kadmon, was the first man, who will be the last? Answer. The last person will be God himself, after the revival of the Messiah, the Moshiach, when all the corrections of the whole humanity are completed. After that, there will be a series of transformations, where out of the creation and the human being will be completely renewed, because death will not exist anymore then. This is although a part of Kabbalah that belongs to the secret part of the Torah and will not be educated. Every individual will be educated. Every individual will receive this from above when he or she is ready. In this lesson, we will go further with the second paragraph, Ot Bet, of the Zohar. But before we continue, I have to give a kind of introduction, a sort of knowledge, experience we do require before we start with this next Ot. If it should be for myself, I would continue the program and go further with Ot Bet. But in the spiritual, it is different. Yesterday I went to bed, but I couldn't sleep, though I felt completely rested. Fullness and wholeness. It wasn't a dream or vision, but spiritual. There appears the complete image of what I had to do this evening. Now I start to explain to you something tonight I couldn't solve for many years, for myself. Because if I needed so many years and could not comprehend, and I don't say I comprehend it now, but the picture became clearer for me. It will clarify a lot. What we have done in the last 2 years will be for a newcomer at the course go very fast. What I saw yesterday was no image or something like that. It wasn't new, but I received it in a very clarifying way. In the whole world, I haven't seen what I want to tell you this evening. Neither in Zohar you can find it in the form I want to give it to you. Zohar is given for eternity, and I will give it to you in a way what is specific for this generation, that it may help all of us. If we should continue now with the Ot Bet, more variables will come, and we could not digest it. That's why I'm asking you, please be silent. Have intention also inwardly, because it is not from me, and it can hover away instantly if there is no cooperation. I'm not the boss. It has, of course, made carvings in me, and it will never disappear, but to tell you, I'm going to try. But if it works, I don't know. Everything has to do with the Zohar, and I have taken the responsibility. It is given to me, and that's why it is revealed to me. Perhaps without you, I wouldn't receive. Now we're in the time of Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles. I don't want to talk about this. Below you can find an article from the Zohar, chapter Noach, paragraph 97, correlated to the Sukkot and the 4 sorts of plants used by each Jew. Sukkot and Arba Minim. From Zohar, Noach 97. Sukkot, Feast of Tabernacles, stands in the sign of the power that has the name Avaya over the unclean forces, which disguise the light of the Creator in the lower worlds, and won't go along with his high command. There comes nothing from above if we don't evoke here below. When the dominion of this name rise, the evil forces will weaken, and eventually they will disappear. The Jew, as an ambassador of the Creator, shows up on these days with the holy 4-letter name, the name that is in agreement with the Arba Minim, the 4 sorts of plants of the lulav. 1. Hadassim, branch of myrrh, 3 pieces. These are Hagat, of the letter Yud, of the name of Avaya. 2. Aravim, branch of the willow, 2 pieces. These are Netzach and Od, which attract the first hay of the four-letter name. 3. Lulav, branch of the palm tree, one piece. This is Yesod, the letter Vav of the name of Avaya. And 4. Etrog, citrus fruit, one piece. This is Malchut, the second Hey of the four-letter name, Avaya. Altogether, they represent the 7 fields of forces of the operational system of the universe, Zeir Anpin and Malchut. With these Arba Minim, one tries to be favorable to the Avaya, to bring oneself in agreement with his qualities, and let the strength of his holy name, Avaya, reign over the lower unclean forces. Through this, a Jew arouses at the same time the holy waters, Ma'im Kedeshim. This means the descending on him from the highlight, the blessings. And through this, he will pour out the waters on the altar that is Malchut. That's the reason to let the waters pour out in abundance at the altar, which is still done in Israel. With this, one undermines the malicious waters, Ma'im Chazidanim. The branches and the citrus fruit together are named Lulav. Everything namely comes at the Nukva, the Malchut, from Yesod. The last Sfirah, Zeir Anpin, the male strength that gives at her. Yesod is also Brit Kodesh, Brit Milah. What is the union between the Creator and Israel, between heaven and earth, between the lower and the higher. It receives in oneself everything what comes from above, from Binah, and gives it through it Malchut, the earth and the feminine principle. And from Malchut, the Atzilut goes further to the souls of man. Every Jew has to buy a lulav set for himself, and someone from the course will take this with him. I don't buy it anymore because I don't let myself lead through the outward appearance of religion. I do eat, of course, kosher and that sort of things, and I love the Creator, but not religion. For every one of us, it comes in its own way. A lulav set is 6 plus 1, which equals 7. 7 sfirot, the operational system of the universe. When you learn the spiritual on the one hand, you will penetrate the secrets of the universe, and it is a good quality to research and to go deeper. Just as Moses, he too wanted to know exactly how the universe was functioning. You must have modesty, and on the other hand, you must be demanding. For the sake of the Creator, you want to penetrate and not for yourself. You are doing this to serve. The more you know, experience the spiritual, the more you can draw it to you and correct yourself and the whole world. From you and not from groups' spirit, because no good comes from groups' spirit, although it seems different. You must work in an absolutely individual way. That's what the Creator eventually wants from us, but you have to be ready for it. The greatest blessings in our world are received in small rooms, without people, without fuss, without crying or yelling. We pronounce the name of Avaya, and this eternal name of the Creator we can find everywhere. In every religion, they pronounce this 4-letter name. I tried to penetrate this name. I wanted to know what it all meant. Who are you as a person to do that? The Creator eagerly wants that we do this, that we will know Him. Why is the 4-letter name, Yud-K, Vav-K, sacred? Where from comes this name? I wanted to know so I could bring myself more in harmony with the Eternal. I couldn't near the Eternal, couldn't see where everything was coming from, and couldn't see how this name was born wherever I sought. This name is the name of the Eternal Creator, in His quality of mercy. We only experience mercy when we have 10 sfirot. Ari told us not to speak about Adam Kadmon. It is so rarefied. It would be philosophy when we should talk about it. It is not allowed to speak about things we don't experience. That is Adam Kadmon, the first world. I want to show you a little bit so you can feel where it all comes from, without any logic, but higher. We are not allowed to speak about Adam Kadmon, and now I want you to tell you something what is even higher. who am I to do so? But yesterday I got permission because it helps us. I got the confirmation to do this. Do I have then to ask for your permission as a rabbi? Someone who's from flesh and blood. You get permission if you may do this. It has nothing to do with me. From Ein Sof, where was absolutely nothing, it came to below, to us. Don't try to understand, not with logic or whatever. You can do that afterwards. The etrog, a kind of citrus fruit, is the malchut. It is important that the stem is still there because otherwise it wouldn't be kosher. It is not for me to explain now. The lulav, the branch of a palm, is yesod, because eventually everything from above comes in the yesod. It corresponds by man with the place of the produce organs, of the reproductive organs. Of course, not the organ, what is between your legs, but the strength that is in there. Yesod brings everything from above to below, to the malchut. The etrog is malchut. You hold the etrog at the downside of the lulav, and it is as if man comes into a woman. All branches together are the 6 sfirot of the Ze'ah, Zeir Anpin. The 3 branches of the myrrh stands for Hesed, Gvura, and Tiferet, the three higher emanations of Zeir Anpin. These branches have little fragrance. The etrog has taste and fragrance, because that is the malchut. And the malchut is the purpose of the whole creation. Everything comes from above to the malchut. We use 2 branches of the willow, and those stands for netzach and hod. Willow branches have neither taste nor fragrance. The branch of a palm tree is yesod. This gives a total of 6 sfirot, and below them is the nukva, the malchut. And when everything is given at the nukva, she becomes the malchut of Knesset Yisrael, the collection of Israel. Zohar is telling us that the lulav set is Yisrael, at strength. Everything what goes from Yisrael, from Zeir Anpin to the malchut, is named Knesset Yisrael, because it collects anything what is given from the Ze'ah to malchut. Just as shaking with a lulav, shake off to the earth, only because it is tradition, is not my way. I only do something when I experience it spiritually, that I feel the strength and that it gives me life. One shakes the lulav in 6 directions, the 4 sides of the world, above and below, and together they are 6 sides of Ze'ah. The creation has qualities of 6 dimensions. Above it is still in the germ, and the 7th is the malchut. Now I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you now a perspective of a religious Jew, or tradition, but I tell you only about these things that will be of any help. That's why I want to tell you a little bit about Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles. Sukkot lasts 8 days. The first 7 days, the Jews brought sacrifices in the temple. That was in the former days. Now we move our lips by saying prayers, but are exactly the same prayers as it were than at the beginning of the temple service. In the eternal, nothing changes. In those 7 days, 70 bulls were sacrificed. 70 bulls for the 70 natural peoples. The world exists out of 70 nations. In the VN, of course, you find more nations, but in the roots there are 70 nations, and the people of Israel, spiritual, not bound by any country or culture, but in the eternal. All these 7 days, not a word will be spoken about the Jew himself. The Jews say their blessings for all the other nations. Not that they are so good, but it is a regulation from above. They have to do it this way. And only on the 8th day they may bring sacrifices. That is to say, bring all the blessings for the 70 nations of the world here on earth. We only see what is material. We don't see all the blessings coming to the earth at these days for all the nations. At the 8th day, Shemini Atzeret, the Jew may at last ask for himself. In this way, the Creator teaches us how his people have to conduct with the spiritual. So the last day, they can come face to face, make an audience with the Creator. That's, for now, the Sukkot. What I want to tell you now has to be told in this generation. Not I, but I have to tell you, it has never told before to any group whatsoever. Now we are going to speak about the time long before the existence of the worlds, about the first step, where it all comes from. It was always forbidden to speak about this. No one ever had the right feeling, the foreknowledge to do so. It was absolutely impossible to do so. It is written in Talmud also that it is forbidden to speak about the fact of creation, Maaseh, Brishit, with someone. It is very high. Otherwise you will pronounce profanations about the higher, and that is forbidden. And now I even go further, higher than the spirit can reach. I have to tell you, I hope I will succeed, because it is not in my hands. We have said first, everything was blank. There was only light. Everything was perfect and filled with the light of eternity. What even was higher, it was the essence of the Creator, and that is absolutely not to penetrate. From this essence came the Ein Sof, the light of eternity. It came into the thought of the light of eternity to create a creation. Now we go looking how this developed. In the Zohar, we speak constantly about Avaya, the name of the merciful Creator, which is the name revealed for the first time to Moses. We shall see that every human being each day in every situation can evoke this name. The meaning of Sukkot is to evoke willingness at the Avaya with the Lulav, so from above may come the waters of mercy, the light, the blessing to pour it over us. And that comes to every nation, the whole world, to everything what lives. This name corrects the whole creation and breaks the resistance of everything what collaborates, of the evildoers who feed themselves with the unclean forces. And eventually, as cause of this development of the mankind, after 6,000 years, all the unclean forces will shine through by this 4-letter name, Avaya. There is nothing higher, more eternal than this name, Avaya. Elohim is also a name of the Creator. It is not that the Creator has names that are perfect or imperfect. Everything is being seen from our point of view. There is strength with the name Elohim, and it means severity, what is needed also. But when we correct ourselves, the strength of the name Avaya, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, the eternal name of the Creator, shines upon us. If you evoke this name, and you can feel this name, you experience at that moment no pain. Pain is there because we are not capable to experience this eternal name. I'm going to try to tell you about the absolutely first beginning, with hands and feet, to show you how this name here below was born for us. Not for him, only for us. It is the right time. Ari couldn't pronounce it because no one would understand him. Even the greatest rabbis who were sitting next to him couldn't understand. Joseph Caro was an enormous, great scientist of the Torah, and he was sleeping during the lessons of Ari. So high it was. And the whole traditional Jews world learning from the book, Shulchan Aruch, written by Joseph Caro, with all the laws in it. Joseph Caro was a student of Ari, and they learned from him, and not from Ari. Of course, Joseph Caro was a divine man, but only in this world. He couldn't bear the strength of Ari when he was teaching. He felt asleep. He fell asleep, and some people fell faint because it was so high. The more we learn, the more we go higher, and go to below, and go to all sides. Enormous strengths will be awakened within us. The time is here, is ready. Joseph Caro, the greatest person who had worked out all the laws for every generation, he couldn't handle it. And he knew that Ari was a divine man, but he couldn't handle it. Not because he was strong in his wisdom, his divine wisdom, but through his intellect, his human strength. And Ari, he brought it from above to below. I want to try to do the same. Don't try to understand with your head. When the Creator was still in his essence, there is nothing to comprehend. After that came the Ein Sof. First, there was his essence. No child can ever understand the essence of his father or mother. He can only understand the outside from his mother. She makes very tasty sandwiches. Ein Sof means no end. Kabbalists only give names at something they can comprehend, when there is an inwardly agreement, and in Ein Sof something came from his essence, from the essence of the King of the world. We can know nothing, absolutely nothing, but we can look further what is possible for us to experience from him, because we have to bring ourselves in agreement, in harmony with his laws of the universe. So from Ein Sof we can experience a little. Ein Sof was the first that came out of his essence. And when it came out, it was all white, like an empty sheet of paper. Everything was full of light, and there was not a place that was imperfect. All this was happening before the creation was created, before the Torah begins. In the Talmud is written that it is forbidden for two men to speak about the beginning, the first step from creation, as it is written in the Torah. And at the beginning the Creator created. And it is forbidden to speak about this. And I go even higher. I have to tell it here. Ein Sof was full of light. And then it came in the thought, in the plan of Ein Sof, to create the creation. Our task is to look where the name Yud-Kei, Vav-Kei comes from. First, there had to be a place, empty of light, where the creation could come. The creation is already a kind of coarsening, something what doesn't belong to Ein Sof. How is that possible? How can the finite come from the eternal? Impossible. How is this all possible? For a philosopher or through the logic of our world, it is absolutely impossible to understand. We will learn from the logic of the eternal self, before there was created a place for the whole creation. From the moment Ein Sof decided to create the creation, Ein Sof made in oneself a sort of carving in the light itself. Carvings means a lack at perfection, a lack of perfection. That's why it is not good for a person to make tattoos, because he makes in himself carvings, imperfections. Ein Sof made carvings in such a way oneself that it looked from the perspective of the Ein Sof, he was as Ein Sof. But from the perspective of the future creation, it were carvings. You must see it this way. In the divine logic, two opposites can come together, something what is impossible in our world. Regarding the perspective of the Creator, the Ein Sof is Ein Sof till our world. But regarding to us, the Ein Sof had made carvings. How is it possible to make something without a matrix? Please refer to drawing number 8 in the written materials, the 4 stages of the forming of the light Ein Sof, drawing 8.1. And we continue. Please refer to the next page, the drawing of the 4-letter name and the 5 stages. Ein Sof is light. The light undergoes 4 stages. Keter will not be seen as a stadium. Keter is, as it were, a covering where are embedded the 4 strengths of Chokmah, Binah, Ze'ah, and Malchut. Certain carvings were done. On the one hand, it was Ein Sof, but on the other hand, there is a differentiation with the Ein Sof. Both are one. Both are Ein Sof, and that corresponds later with the Keter. Then the first stage came, the stage of coarsening of the light before the creation was created. We do not speak yet about Sfirot. It is impossible to tell, but step by step all of you will experience and feel it. I do not only pronounce words, but I try to bring over the strengths too. Inwardly you will understand. The inner will feel it. If you try to understand with the outside, it will be as a millstone around your neck. There exists a principle of Ari. Mi besari echeze Eloka. From my flesh I shall see God. This means that we will see the manifestation of the higher in the lower. We have everything what is in the higher, and from the lower we can see the higher. As strengths, we can trace back. Stage 1, correspondence with Chokmah. And just as at Chokmah there is a receiving, in the most premature phase, a small carving whereby it still stays Ein Sof. There is no shortcoming by the carving. How is that? Ask the Creator to help you to understand. How is it possible to have finite and eternal together? Regarding the higher, there's absolute unity, and seen from the lower, there's a small carving, a small coarsening. Stage 2 corresponds with the Binah, stage 3 with Zeir Anpin, and stage 4 with Malkut. Keter is the crown, Chokmah is wisdom, Binah is understanding, Ze'ah and Tiferet are splendor, and Malchut is the kingdom of heavens. All of this is in the light itself. Yehuda Ashlag calls it the 4 stadiums of Ein Sof. We call this the 4 stadiums of the world of eternity. The Ein Sof makes carvings in itself in the side that is aimed at the creation. Everything comes from above to the 4th phase, to Malchut, because 0 gives. Phase 1 receives. Phase 2, Binah, gives. A reaction because she doesn't want to receive. Phase 3, Ze'ah, gives a lot and receives a little. Malchut only wants to receive. This together we name the world of eternity. From the very early stage, the 4 stadiums of the forming of Ein Sof, wherein Ein Sof makes carvings in a certain phase in it for the benefit of the world. Here we see the 4 elements that we will see back in the name of the Creator. But here they aren't manifesting itself because this is the world of eternity where only is Or Ein Sof. Stadium 0 is the upper part of the letter Yud. To understand letter, you can compare this with a blank sheet. A blank sheet of paper. The letter is the carving. Not only dots, but also letters and combinations of letters. This is a parallel between writing on paper and the creating of carvings in space. Do you now have a little sense why letters are so important? When we write on a white sheet of paper with black ink, it is analogous to the space where only is light, like the blank sheet, and carvings are in the light, in the space, just as if you make carvings with your pen and the blank sheet. The Torah scroll is written exactly the same way. Everything what was, is, and shall be created is to be found in the Torah, just as the carvings in the light, from above to below to our world. So are these carvings in the Torah scroll too. Also the form and the combination of the letters are the names of the Creator. The first carving of Ein Sof. Ein Sof is not a name. It is only eternity, and there is no differentiation. There is only the existing of the light. How can you give a name when there is nothing? To give a name means coarsening and identification. There must be something through which you get a remark of yourself, an extra carving. To give names is to make definitions, to get something out of the mass. The coming into being of the names the Creator is to be seen in phase 0. The upper curl of the letter Yud shall be later the Keter. Here we do not speak about the qualities of the Sfirot yet. In the Sfirot you can see specific strengths that are not in the stage. The Yud is stage 1, the He is stage 2, the Vav is stage 3, and the second He is stage 4. So even before the creation, we already see the forms of the name of the Creator, Yud Ke Vav Ke. This name is yet not carved, but it is already there in the germ. Through these 4 phases, everything will be born. Everything is necessary to come to something whereby a name can be given. To give a name, 4 phases must be there. And the stage 0, so in a way, 5 phases. Stage 0 is the beginning. There is yet no place for the creation. The carvings were made in the light itself for the sake of stage 4, which is not yet Malchut. Everything is created everything is created from 4 stages. That is the etrog, the lulav, and so everything is for the etrog that gives taste and fragrance. Everything was created for the 4th stage, for the Malchut. The Malchut too in our world has taste and fragrance. Sometimes it seems of our world is too rough, have too much severity, but only in our world we can experience the taste of eternity by working on ourselves. Nowhere else we can experience this. Remember that. Religion says you will receive later when you are not alive. It's not true. You have to work here. Otherwise, you see only the misery and you think that this is our world. Of course, the common man finds consoling in religion. It gives them rest, and that too is good. Gam Zatov. You have to work here and do not think that it doesn't matter how you live your life and that later you will receive the reward. The 4th phase received as a result of the former 4 carvings of the light because only the 4th phase receives. How has she experienced this? She already had experienced the 4 in her. Every stage is more grown up than the previous one. Stage 0 gives, but only in the germ. The 1st stage receives as a baby. The 2nd stage wants to give, doesn't want to receive. Because stage 2, Binah, she looks at stage 1 and already sees that she has received from stage 0. The 2nd stage makes the choice for stage 0 because that is higher. To give is higher than to receive. Stage 3 has receiving in oneself, the receiving and the giving. And stage 4 receives everything. Stage 1 receives without any wanting, but stage 4 already has experienced the resistance in oneself. All carvings of stage 2, who doesn't want to receive, who has experienced in oneself the strengths of stage 3, which gives a lot and receives a little, and yet he says it is better to receive. All of them come to stage 4, and there is the receiving of the first 3 stages in oneself. The 4th stage, Malchut of Ein Sof, makes now carvings by himself because the 4th has everything received of the carvings of the light. And now the same process is in him. In potential, he is the prototype of the future creation. In the same way, he is building up in oneself. At first, everything came from the outside, the 4th stage. But now it comes all in by her, and now we are going to use the word Malchut. Malchut is stage 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. In oneself. The light in Malchut is the 2nd carving of the light, from the moment the light has coarsening in itself. First, the 4 stages have roughened themselves, and then they come lower in the Malchut, and there are the coarsenings, rougher. And yet it is all to be seen as Ein Sof. On the one hand, you can see it as coarsening, and on the other hand, it enters without the Masach, without the screen. It wasn't necessary to build up a screen. Everything entered in a normal way. Of course, in a different gradations regarding the Malchut, but everything is still Ein Sof. At the moment the light enters the Malchut, at the 4th stage, the light said, here we have to stop considering the coarsening. The place is so rough here, it is ready for the creation. So, the 4 worlds exist in the Malchut. Adam Kadmon is the first receiver of the light. It doesn't matter if you do not experience anything where we are talking about. Slowly you will. What did the Creator say to Moses? Build the Mishkan, the tent of the rendezvous, the tent of meeting, at the image, just as you had seen when I told you. Did Moses see the Creator? Of course not. Which Creator? what kind of image you can see of him. He's invisible. And yet, he shows Moses an image. And that is what you will experience too. What I saw yesterday was as clear as crystal. I lay several hours in my bed, awake, and could behold in the spiritual. It is incredible. For every one of us, this is possible. The only thing you have to do is to make yourself receptive. Our task was to know who Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei is. We saw the first Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei in the light itself, and now we see it in the Malchut, exactly the same. Malchut, stage 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are rougher carvings of the light, yet it is all rarefied. We call it Ein Sof, but it has all the carvings necessary for the creations. How could the creations taste these 5 flavors otherwise than this way? Through the carvings, an empty place originates, a place where the creation could be created. In stage 4, the Malchut, the 4 worlds, enter. First, Adam Kadmon and Ari said about Akka, don't speak about this world because that is speaking for the speaking. Prophecy about anything there is. It is speaking without connecting yourself with the names of the Creator. And that is the sin. Do you see in how many ways a person can sin every day? First, Adam Kadmon came into the 4th stage of Malchut, and afterwards Bria, Yetzirah, Asiyah. And the roughest place in the universe is our world. There exists nothing rougher in the whole solar system. We are in the middle, in the absolute epicenter of the roughest form of material of all galactic there is. Even Mars, who is close to us and is rarefied, but is far away in the solar system, is more rarefied till the place that is absolutely spiritual, where material transfers into the spiritual. The material never can come there. No space shuttle can penetrate this spiritual space. Only a person, a human being, can do this. Sitting in a little room under the attic of his house. In a material way, it will never work. Einstein had already seen this in the laws of physics. The world Adam Kadmon, the first world, is for us the world 0, and is in agreement with the upper curl of the letter Yud. Atalut is the world number 1. This is Chokmah, and that is the whole letter Yud. Bria is world 2, and that's the first Hey. Yetzirah is the world 3, and that is the Vav. Asiyah is the world 4, and this is the second Hey. Together they are rougher carvings of the name Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, but they aren't yet the name Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei itself. We can draw these 4 worlds as circles, but also, as we have done before, whereby every world is above another one. The lower, the rougher. Look for an example, the drawing 41 of last year. In last way, you see what is higher and lower. If it is reflected as circles, you can see what is inner and outer from the point of view of the light. Please refer to drawing 8.2 in the written materials. And we continue. The 4 worlds are drawn from above to below, and under them is the roughest, our world. Under Adam Kadmon is Tabur, and under Tabur is Atzilut, is beginning. We see everything comes from Atzilut, because that is wisdom. It is the upper dot of the letter Yud, and the Yud of the name of the Creator. Again we see that from Atzilut, because that is wisdom. It is the upper dot of the letter Yud, the Yud of the name of the Creator. In Atzilut we find Atik, Arichanpin, Abba Enima, Zerampin, and Malchut, Zon. And under Atzilut are the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. Together they form the name Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, as mentioned before. Only you must see this as general, because every world has in itself these names too. Only then as a main quality of that specific world. For us, Atzilut is the most important world. We have said the letters were yet not existing. Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei were just carvings. What is the beginning? What is the beginning? Where the letters coming from? Where are they coming from? Just as in our world, when we write on a sheet of paper, we can find in the world Atzilut spiritual carvings, named letters. because everything comes from the Absolute. Unto Absolute there were no letters. Ot means letter. Otiyot means are letters. It is not kilim. What is the plural form of kli? Kli is what receives light. Letters are complete coarsening, unities at paper that brings differentiation, each one of them carrying its own significance, its own significant information. But there are no kelim in Adam Kadmon. There everything is very thin. It is so thin, there's nothing to study. This is the reason why Ari had said not to speak about Adam Kadmon. There is no kelim. Kelim or letters, it is the same. We say letters on paper to draw a parallel with the light. When the light is completely Ein Sof, it is a blank sheet of paper or parchment, not even a single dot on it. The second stage is the dot. It is neither a letter nor Ein Sof. In this way, from where comes out the letters, the whole universe is controlled, from the empty places at a sheet of paper with the Hebrew letters. The Hebrew letters gives us the coarsening of the light. Information, there exists something. Something exists already from the creation. These white places where no letters on the paper or the parchment, are as Ein Sof. Regarding the letters, it is to be seen as light. It is only creation when we see the letters. If the light is not yet coarsened, there are no letters at the paper. This means there haven't been the four phases. It is the same with the strengths of the universe. These also have to undergo these four phases. All of this you must see as a prelude at what I want to tell you. This is all necessary before we can come to the point. Half of our life is over, and now we come to the point, the reason where we are living for. Again, half of our lives are over, and now we come to the point, the reason for what we're living for. Only very great, wise men can do this much earlier. Others do it later, and it doesn't matter. There were yet no kelim in Adam Kadmon, only contours, but no kelim. The creation wasn't yet born. That's why Ari said, do not talk about this subject. The first in Atzilut is Atik, and this means early. It belongs at Adam Kadmon because there must be a gradual situation. There is always needed a kind of interim phase. Atik is not a kelim. In Ari Champin there are some coarsening, kelim, but it is not a true kelim. The light is still very thin. Abba and Ima, father and mother, that is the strength that brings forth Zeir Anpin and Nukva, from where we receive all the light, all the blessings. What I want to tell you, Abba and Ima, Avi, has 10 sfirot, or 5. Everything has 5. The 7 bottom sfirot of Avi is the place where were formed the letters. From here come the strengths that we can comprehend in the universe. Only the letters, or the combinations of letters, sentences, we can comprehend. The same with the strengths from the 7 bottom sfirot of the Avi. This we can comprehend. There are namely letters. So the 7 bottom sfirot of Avi, of Bina, is the same as Yisrael Saba, Yitvuna, Yishsut. In this we see male and female. We'll explain this later. We can understand this at all levels, at Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. The same construction is in everything, as in Atik, Ari Champin, Avi, and Zon. Now we see, for the first time, there is an understanding possible from the 7 bottom sfirot of the Bina. Here we see the full letters at a sheet of paper, and in the universe they are already constructed in such a way that it is to understand. In Ari Champin, it was already there, but in the 7 bottom sfirot of the Bina, it was coming out as a result. And there's still Zon, Ze'ah, and Malchut. Summary. 7 sfirot of Bina, the upper 3 sfirot of Avi, we do not comprehend. We can't reach the bottom 7 sfirot of the Bina, but it is possible. Zeir Anpin. Nukva. Nukva means it hasn't blossomed yet. In every Partzuf is 10 sfirot, we can see these 3 points. Only these 3 are of our concern. They need each other. Malchut can't receive without the Zeir Anpin. Together they can combine and be elevated to undergo correction. Everything concerns these 3 levels. And under Malchut, there are the souls of man, and of course also in our world. We too have to elevate ourselves and bring all the strengths of the Malchut of the world of Absolute. We are the lowest part of the Malchut. We are hanging at the Malchut. At the same way as we have seen hanging the Malchut at the Olam Ein Sof. And if we bring our prayer, our shortcomings to the Malchut, she's just as a mother. She too has the vowel Hey as Binah. Therefore, she felt herself obligated to aim at the Ze'ah, who has 6. Why, we will learn later. And together they go at the 7 Sfirot to Binah. They go up to the Avi, and from there all the blessings come. These 7 bottom Sfirot of the Binah are compared with the Lulav and with the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Regarding the whole Partzuf, regarding to oneself, it is 10. Hesed, Guvra, Tiferet is Hagat, are the Yud, as mentioned in the article about Sukkot, and the 4 sorts of plants at the beginning of this lesson. Here too, see the Yud Kei Vav Kei. This name of the Creator is to see in everything. Each Sefirah has the name of the Creator in oneself. Every cell of a newborn mouse carries the material of the Yud Kei Vav Kei in oneself. Every living material carries these 5 or 10 Sfirot. During the time I lived in Russia, I had a partner who was a great professor, and one day he brought me with the car to the University of Moscow, a marvelous building from the time of Stalin. He was impressed by the architecture because that was culture, and for him culture was decisive. He was completely elevated of this beautiful building. In these days I didn't know anything about Kabbalah, and I saw a little mouse at the stair, and I said to him, "Look at that little mouse. It has more value in the building because it is alive. I'm not yet finished with the revelation I got yesterday. It is still a prelude. I'm telling you something that is useful for every day. I don't want you to learn theories. Kabbalah, the spiritual, is something you have to experience. And not only talking about how the structure is there and saying that the best horseman is always on his feet. Everything consists of 10, we have said. Keter, Hokmah, Bina, Hesed, Gubra, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. Keter is the upper dot of the Yud. Hokmah is the Yud. Bina is the first Hey. Ze'ah is the Vav. Malchut is the second Hey. Each Sfirah has the same order. We already have said in every cell of a mouse, for example, you can find the Creator. The Creator means the qualities of these 4 stadiums. You can find it in rocks, too, only we can't see it. If we see a rock, we think it is dead, but they are alive. When you have been, for example, on a holiday for 2 weeks or more, and you come home, when you enter the house, the stones feel like death. And when you are at home, you feel they come alive. With plants, too. Why? Man draws it all to oneself and gives it to all other creatures. Why is this important for me? To employ this is very important. The last course I had told you, we have to live in the now. Don't think at the past or at any guilt you may have. Do not have any guilt, by no means. It is a product of your ego. I told you, do not hold contact with your past. But when it comes, I had applied that for later because when it was too much for us, we were not ready. I had said, if there comes something from your past, you had sinned, done silly things, or a person who had hurt you, your father, the Germans, do not get fixated or do not get fixed at the past or what comes in you. But neither don't chase it away. It is of no help, by no means. It will return to you at double force. So do not suppress because it becomes more powerful that way. When it comes in your thoughts, let it simmer. I didn't say why. The power of the now clears the part of the past, what has come in your thoughts. The mechanism I hadn't told you, and without the mechanism it is only speaking for the speaking. We can explain everything with the 10 Sfirot, with the name of the Eternal, Yud Kei Vav Kei. When we experience in each situation these 10 Sfirot, we live in eternity. When we experience absolutely, then we experience absolutely no pain. Now we are going to look at it from another point of view. Now we are speaking about the Sfirot. I had told you too, do not live in the future, that are only expectations, and they weaken you. Your attention is then in the future. There's always misery when you live in the past or think too much of the future. Of course, there are thoughts, but let them be as a flash of light. All I had talked about came from the 10 Sfirot, but then I didn't find the right words, and now I'm trying at the end of the lesson. The time for the lesson had nearly passed away. Time is also linked at the bad principle. I could continue the whole night. Please refer to the drawing 8.3 in the written materials. And we continue. Keter, Chokmah, and Binah are the past. Hesed, Guvara, and Tiferet are the present. In the body, it is the Guf. Netzach, Hod, Yesod are the future. We put Malchut at the future too, but later we will see there exist, as it were, no Malchut in the Absolute. First, you have to build up Keter. It is the first that comes in your Kelim. You build up the Keter with one compartment, and there comes in the light. Everything what arrives first is the past. If you're in the now, you had your Kelim received already. We have to live in the now, then the future you don't experience. From there comes only a few flashings. Chesed also has 10 Sfirot, Keter, the Chesed, Chochmah, the Chesed, etc. Everything has 10 in itself. Gubara too has 10 Sfirot, Keter de Gubara, Chochmah de Gubara, etc. And so too Tiferet. When you live in the present, in the now, when you live in the present, in the now, you live in your three Kelim, Chesed, Gubara, and Tiferet. They are from your body, the base of you. Suppose you live in Chesed. You have 10 Sfirot, and Keter of Chesed, Chochmah of Chesed, Bina of Chesed. You get them from the past. It is not that you are in the past. The past is embedded in the Chesed. And if you try to live completely in the Chesed, in Chesed there is Netzach, the Chesed, Hod, the Chesed, Yesod, the Chesed. So the future is also in the Chesed. You are sitting in the future too, but not in a way. The past doesn't matter to you because everything is in you. You have to experience all 10. In the Chesed you have a piece of the past, a piece of the now, and a piece of the future. You stay in the now, but every Sfirah has 10 in itself. So in every Sfirah there is past, present, and future. Basically you live in the now, but in the particular you have 10 of Chesed, and 10 of Gvura, and 10 of Tiferet. And when you live in the now, in each situation you have and past and future. You don't have to think about the past. It comes in you when you live in the present time. Your past has passed away, and it will come. Implacable in the experience of the Hesed, Gubara, and Tiferet. You must not receive in the lower part, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. It is not allowed to draw from above to here below. That was the sin of Adam. He had drawn all the strengths from above to below. Live in the now. The future is also present in the now. Do not think there is a future. Future exists only in your imagination. Only the now exists. That's why we have said the Creator only lives in the now. To live only in the now means you live in your Chesed, Gubara, and Tiferet. And maybe you only reach one Sfirah of the now. Know that in every Sfirah is past, here and now, and the future. Be well until the next lesson.